All right, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to the panel. Today we're talking about AI investing. That's not a relevant topic, I don't think. Do you think? We're not seeing any AI companies.
No, not at all.
Well, good, welcome. We're hoping to have a good conversation here, very casual, very open. I asked ChatGPT, what's the best way to host a panel? And the first thing it said was, don't make a big deal out of the long, lengthy introductions. So I'll scratch that. So we will introduce as we go. Most of the people on the panel, you just look them up on LinkedIn. It's pretty easy. I think you can figure that out. But I'm Guy Reams. I've been in part of New Fund for several years. I run a company called Blackstraw. We're an AI firm, a software development firm. And I'm also doing a podcast here today for New Fund called Founder's Journey. So that's who I am, and we'll get to know the panel as we go. So ChatGPT also said the second thing I should do is start with an interesting fact that will capture the audience's attention. So here it goes. I called my buddy at one of the big four consulting firms, and I said, you got to give me some data that's cool. So this is what he said. So already I'm reading from him. This is interesting. He says, we are heading towards, if we're not already exceeded, a 1 trillion annual amount of money in mergers, acquisitions, and minority stake positions annually. $1 trillion business. Like, we will be there by the end of this year. That's a pretty interesting stat. They also said 40% of VC investments are AI related. Now, I have to say, AI and software are synonymous terms today. I mean, people say, I have an AI, what they really are saying is I've developed software. So I'm not sure if that's really a good stat or not, right? Finally, with all that investment going on, interestingly enough, I just saw a recent survey that says over 60% of surveyed CTOs and CIOs said, we are just tired of hearing about AI tools. It's exhausting. So that's kind of an interesting paradox, isn't it? So with that, we'll get started with our panel. I'd like to start with Hooman. Who are you with?
I'm with Menlo Ventures.
I don't know the name
I thought
of
we
your
did
firm.
prep call.
I can't remember your firm. Yeah.
You know what the issue is? You've been using ChatGPT.
Some little firm up in the Bay Area. I can't remember their name. What was it? Yeah. Oh, Menlo. That's right.
Yeah. So, partner at Menlo Ventures. We're a 47-year-old firm based out of the Bay Area. We're investing in mostly enterprise, consumer, life sciences, and healthcare. Recently, we're all in on AI. We ended up leading the Anthropic round last round, Series D. We've also been investing across the RAG stack, which we'll probably cover at some point in talk.
Yeah, no, I'm curious. So I think a theme that I'd like to start with is there's a lot more to the AI world than ChatGPT. And I think you would probably be the foremost authority on that topic, being an investor in Anthropic. And Claude is probably my favorite LLM out of all of them.
Best performing, right?
Yeah, the best performing, and I think just the coolest, my personal opinion. So talk to us about that. There's a lot more going on than just the chat interface that we're used to with ChatGPT. So talk to about you mentioned RAG stack. That's clearly a place to start. So walk us through what you mean by RAG stack.
So RAG stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. What it is, if any software developers in the audience, okay, we got quite a few. So if you guys recall, when we built software back in the days, the world changed when libraries came about. I think RAG stack is sort of a foundational element the way we think about building AI applications. So you kind of start at the bottom layer, which is really the, let's say the GPU providers, let's say the AWSs, the Googles of the world. The next layer up is really the LLMs, large language models. What really feeds into these LLMs is the data structures that are feeding in. So it's think of it as sort of the vector databases, like we're investors in Pinecone. There's the Postgres databases. Again, there's another one called Neon that's operating pretty well in the Postgres space. But really the data that's going in the world that we live in is quite unstructured. If you think about PDF and image, most of those are being really unstructured. It's really hard to feed that data into most of these databases to be ingested into an LLM, to be able to actually get results out of it. So when you have these building blocks, you're able to actually generate AI applications more efficiently and build sort of, I wouldn't say that the next generation AI companies are not AI companies. It's going to be healthcare companies. It's going to be manufacturing companies. It's going to be solutions that provide real value in the world. So maybe I'll pause there. I know.
Yeah, no, that's great. Now, Susan and I were talking last night. Susan is up in the Bay Area. I'll let her introduce her firm in a second. But you had mentioned to me that if you heard one more AI company come to you with a chatbot style proposal, it was going to drive you nuts, right?
Yes, Susan Akbarpour. I'm the managing partner of Canaan Ventures, an early stage fund in Silicon Valley. We are heavily invest in SaaS platforms, AI, some semiconductor, and IoT and cloud infrastructure. I don't necessarily hate. I don't invest in chatbots because they have become commoditized by the large players, and those are really small problems, solutions to small problems that some startups want to solve. But when I receive a pitch that it says an AI-driven company, which will disrupt the entire such and such, and we are the next unicorn, I'm laughing because I received probably the same day 7 of the same pitches. And some of them are really funny because 3 years ago, the same startup, or 5 years ago, reached out to us. I'm a blockchain company. And then they changed the jersey to I'm a metaverse company. And now we're an AI company. What is the freaking problem you're trying to solve? And how AI, blockchain, any of these solutions out there that used to be product, but they became solutions, they are accelerating your development. They are making your products better, cheaper, faster. How are you leveraging these new solutions that have been invented for you? And for you to create the best application is the matter of putting these right solutions together.
So our third guest here, Yit, we were talking, and I'll let you introduce yourself and your company here in a second. But we were talking, and AI has been around for a long time. I remember when I was in my PhD program back in the early 2000s, I had several AI classes, right? So machine learning, model build-outs, these type of things, parameter creation has been around a long time. Computer vision, predictive analytics, all that stuff has been around, right? Yeah. So this universe of AI, I like it because business people are now talking about it for the first time. When you would mention AI, the eyes would roll back in their head, and they'd be like, I don't want to talk about it. But now people want to talk, which is great. So talk to us about the universe that you're seeing, more than just large language models, of course.
Yeah. So I'm Yiğit, co-founder and GP of Menlo Partners. It's a quant VC firm. Think about it like a quant hedge funds investing in public markets, but applied to early stage private markets. So we quantify, we do math, we do science, we use AI in every aspect of investment, but mainly top of funnel, search, scoring algorithms. So we use it every day, we develop it, we research it. We are 12 engineers basically building it. I'm writing code every day and investing at the same time. So what I see, I think, Guy, what you and I talked about is it's the large language models is taking the scene at the moment for every company. Of course, it's really important. But what we are seeing with large language models is that it's augmenting everyone's work, including machine learning engineers' work. So as a machine learning engineer, you do a lot of feature engineering. You think about which model to use. But actually, large language models also enable you to be able to do that too. So exactly like if you're a designer, if you are a writer, if you're a doctor, how it is augmenting your work. Large language models also augment your work. So, there are some software developers here. You talked about the stack as well. I'm really excited about the use of large language models with the other machine learning and statistical models to basically augment each other. I think there is a lot of opportunities at the stack, basically.
So our last guest, Quinn, he's from a small startup here in San Diego. So Quinn and I were talking about another whole world in the AI space, especially when we're looking for investments, is at the edge. And I thought our conversation was pretty interesting. So talk to us about your perspective coming from Qualcomm Ventures about what you're looking for in the investment space when it comes to AI.
Yeah, so I'm Quinn Lee. I head of Qualcomm Ventures with the venture capital arm for Qualcomm. And broadly, we're investor in looking for investment in startups that can leverage Qualcomm's technology. So what does that mean? So it means that if you're building a device, you could be a potential customer. But if you're building software, you could be building software running on edge devices that's maybe powered by our silicon. Okay, so that's kind of flavors of startups we're looking for. We invest across stages, so any Series A, B, C stages, and we invest globally. We have a portfolio of about 140-ish companies right now. It's about $2 billion under management.
We really are looking at a global landscape when it comes to companies right now.
Yes, yes.
I mean, the talent pool is literally worldwide right now.
Right, exactly.
That's
so,
a whole new universe for us Americans who think we're the most smartest people in the world.
Oh yeah, there's pockets of excellence in the startup area, like in Israel, for instance.
Yeah.
There's lots of interesting startups in Europe. India's coming up very strong in the world of startups too. And then back to your question about edge AI. So you probably heard Nicole earlier today talk about a lot of the processing we believe is going to happen on the edge. So what does the edge mean? In our world, edge means could be a smartphone, could be an AI PC, could be a car, could be an IoT device, right? Those are, in our words, edges. And now a lot of the training of the model will happen in the cloud still, but we think that in order for AI to really proliferate, a lot of the processing, mostly inferencing, will happen on edge devices. And why? Because you need the information fast, so latency becomes an issue. In an autonomous car, you don't want to send all the video data to the cloud to process and bring it back. A lot of the AI processing needs to happen locally in the car, right? So that's a good example. And the other benefit to process some of these locally is also cost. If you send everything in the cloud, whether it's AWS or whoever, you're paying a lot of processing cost. If it can happen on local devices, actually do process in local devices, whether it's a phone, PC, or other devices, there's economic value to have the AI happening in the edge.
That was my second line of questioning is, as investors, we have to change our minds about the financial models that make these AI companies viable. And you just hit on a big one. Power is becoming the largest cost of AI today. I mean, that is clearly the case. It takes a lot of processing power and therefore a lot of electricity to have these machines do what we're asking it to do. So you're making a great point. There's a lot of companies coming out that are pushing more of this intelligence to the edge and therefore saving on monolithic power costs. That's very interesting.
So there's still power associated with running these models, so it's just more distributed fashion, right? Not pushing everything to the cloud. So we're investor in a local company called Netrodime. So you know the Amazon trucks that come to your house, or my house at least, maybe at least once a day. They have this dash cam in these trucks. It's monitoring the driver behavior. So there's a camera that's facing to the outside and as well as to the driver. And what it's trying to do is help the driver improve. So one of the potential risks of accidents, running traffic lights and other things. So using these cameras and a lot of these AI processing is actually happening on the dash cam on the device itself. It can really help understand what the driver's doing when they're delivering stuff. Are they running traffic lights? Are they doing or falling asleep? To help you really improve the efficiency for these fleets and reduce the cost for accidents, other things. So that's a perfect example of, now the model training for these models could happen still in the cloud, but a lot of the inferencing all happens in a local device.
So Hooman, we were talking, and I did actually prep. So we had this prep call, and we were talking a little bit about, I think there's a myth about SaaS. So all of us have come to be trained because of Amazon probably, but we've been trained to believe that new companies have to have a SaaS subscription model. but I don't know if that's necessarily true, especially in your case there. Are you seeing different models for how companies show financial viability, like maybe consumption-based?
So let's think about the baseline. So if you think about over the last year, so last year a lot of companies spent dollars on LLM providers. It was more experimentation. There was not real true production use cases, but there was still billions of dollars spent. We saw a 16x increase in the amount of spend on various LLM providers over the last year. That's a significant step up. But most enterprises that we surveyed, we actually did an enterprise survey that's available on the Menlo website now, they said that they're actually still using 3 to 4 LLMs, 2 to 3, 3 to 4 LLMs for their use cases. So people are still experimenting. But there's not a one-size-fits-all because most, let's say, AI models are really expensive. As you're running these AI models, it's going to be a significant amount of cost. Not just in fact, the margins might be negative for some LLM providers initially. But what happens is that these models start to be sort of diversified. You've got smaller models, you've got large models. I think Quinn mentioned that a lot of these models are now running at the edge. If you can do some of the initial analysis and inference at the edge, but then offload the more strenuous tasks to the cloud, you're able to actually have a lot more of a balance and a lower cost potentially to address some of the needs of the use cases you're trying to address. So as you think about business models, most companies were sort of like annual contracts up front, to answer your question. I think that's going to be sort of a losing game because sometimes you're going to end up actually charging, let's say, X dollars, but your cost is really significant, X plus, let's say, certain dollar above that because these models are charging you based on consumption. So I think as companies kind of think about the future, they're going to be looking at, well, how do I take the snowflake model of pricing, which is more consumption-based, and that's going to probably change some of the paradigm of the way that business models are going to be structured.
Yeah, I can see that happening. Susan, obviously you've seen companies coming through. And I don't think just because you have a .ai at the end of your company name, that excuses you from a financial review somehow.
Yes.
Like, I don't know if you've noticed this kind of attitude, well, I'm an AI company. I don't need to be, no due diligence for me.
Yeah, and all other usual suspects that we are looking into, like your competitive analysis, product market fit, market size. That AI maybe excited us a couple years ago, but now we're getting back, and the playing field is getting leveled, and we're looking into many other things. I'm very excited about AI Edge, the fact that we can use that to decrease latency, and especially for user privacy. That's something that is very close to my heart for data privacy. We can use that as well. So we're looking into those deals, automations, robotics, the future of. I'm looking into a flying car deal right now. Seriously, vertical flying, garage to garage, not like a helicopter or airport to airport. And I mean, if we can't figure out and we can't leverage Edge AI, we can never see this back to the future solutions. And also, get back to your question about everything. Yes. The cost, the vision, the market size, and everything else that mattered for years and decades for any VCs in your all those metrics that we need to look
Is there
into.
anything particular that you look at more? Is there anything in particular you're looking at more carefully in a company that is coming at you with an AI proposition? Is there any financial model or revenue generation capability that you're looking at that would be different than any other company?
Revenue generation is important. I'm getting excited about the product, and as I mentioned at the beginning, solving a real problem. And I'm pretty sure if you focus on the problem and lose your focus on the solutions that you can use or leverage, that will happen. Eventually, you figure out a way and you find the right elements, right investors, right team members to figure it out. But if the problem is not real and you're creating a solution and then look for the problem, I lose my interest. And we can you can figure it out if the product
Yeah.
is not a product wannabe, like it is a real product solving a real world problem.
Maybe just going to add to that, the barriers of entry have actually decreased with the tools that are out there. It's a lot easier to couple 10 things together. The biggest use case for LLMs these days are actually code generation.
Oh yeah.
People are generating tons of code. You can get an app launched this weekend just by.
In fact, it's great that you're mentioning that. I think UI UX front end engineering in a couple years they're gone. I mean, I've looked at the deal on a company in the skilled mode that practically the user prompts the application that they want to use, and the system is designing the software before your eyes and use the APIs in the background. They're bringing everything through Data Fabric or all these APIs together. They're generating APIs sometimes, but the front end will be completely disrupted, front end engineering, in my view.
Yeah, maybe kind of add to that here. The next generation is going to be agentic AI,
Yes.
where your workflows are going to be kind of determining. I think if you think about kind of what's going to happen next stage of development, it's going to be, well, how do we actually figure out this problem? Forget the UI, forget the UX. It's going to be the voice. It's going to be the sensors that are understanding the world around you.
Your emotions.
100%.
So any potential founders out here listening, great business idea for you. A UX framework that can have AI hooks that'll automatically build a UI framework based on an AI prompted
Yes.
hook. Yeah, it'd be pretty fascinating.
From the user's
Does that exist
behavior.
today?
I think Figma probably will.
Figma's
will go
probably
after
close?
That. I think Figma, Adobe, they're working on.
Yeah, I've seen something from
these
Adobe.
areas.
What do you? I know you're dying to say something on that.
Yeah. I think whatever we talk about, probably there are tens of founders at the moment working on them. I've noticed over the years having, running our algorithms on the web. Whenever there's a great idea, whenever there's a market gap, whenever there's a pain point, there are at least 5 to 10 great minds noticing that opportunity, working on it, solving the pain point in a different way, different solution. But the pain point that they are solving is always the fundamentals are the same. So,
May I offer another advice?
Sure.
Watch all those old sci-fi movies from 20 to 50 years ago.
Black Mirror.
All those ideas that sometimes we were watching that and seemed really mind-boggling. Nowadays are becoming the products. There might be a few products that they left over, so you can work on it.
Yeah, last year Nolan was here, Nolan Bushnell, and I asked him that question. What advice would you give to a young founder? And he says, "Go watch old sci-fi."
Yes.
That was his exact answer. So, newsflash. This was the newsflash I just got. If you're founding a new AI company, you should actually be solving a real problem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Invent the problems, invent the products and solutions.
I think back to Susan's question, that you really need I think the startup should be finding a problem and finding a solution to a problem versus develop technology looking for a problem, right? But to add just to Huma's point about code generation, what we're seeing in enterprises, I think the enterprise adoption of AI is still early days, right? One of the use cases enterprise trying to figure out is, or at least this one use case we've seen some adoptions on customer service. So you have, you call, whether it's United Airlines or whoever, right, customer service, the experience usually is not great, right? It's because the other person on the other side, the call centers, they have high turnovers, maybe 40% turnovers on these call agents, right? So we've seen companies developing solutions to help basically get these agents on the other side, the call center, much, much more efficient and be able to also do real-time transcription or suggesting things that the agent should say to the customer if problem arises. So that's actually one it's a huge market, the call center market. So it's a very interesting use case of leveraging AI technology to solve a real problem with the labor shortage, the turnover of the agents, and we invest in a company called Questa is basically doing that to help the call center become much more efficient, to provide the visibility to the supervisors to manage these call center agents, and then in the future, you could even replace real humans with actually virtual agents.
It's amazing.
So you mean AI-powered, let me talk to your supervisor.
Yeah, or maybe actually have AI listen to all those recorded calls. They always say the call's being recorded for customer service. Do they actually listen? No. But AI
AI
could.
models, for sure. But even
Fire all those.
no, even for training, I mean, even that whole call center intelligence market is really blown up. I mean, you look at companies like Observe.ai that have been able to kind of take all this call data, all these workflows that the agents have been following to kind of resolve your issues, and they can actually say, well, based on what we're hearing, let's actually train this agent to do things a little differently. Let's tell the manager how they could do things a little more efficiently. You can actually increase more efficiency with the agents. Every call costs about $10. But with an AI agent, so to your question about the model, could you potentially provide savings and could you potentially get paid on those savings? Not saying that these companies are doing that today, but I think it could be a model. Another use case which we've seen is content generation in general. So think about marketing. Think about the amount of cost that goes into being able to go do a photo shoot in front of the Brooklyn Bridge in New York, which the right lighting, the right situation, make sure the crowds are not there. A large CPG that we talked to was spending over $1 billion a year on content generation. So we're investors in a company called Typeface, which was founded by the CTO of Adobe, that can take a vector image of a purse and give it a prompt and say, want to have a woman wearing this purse, drinking a glass of Chardonnay in front of the Brooklyn Bridge, right at sunset, and capture that exact moment, and then be able to modify it. But then now take that image and export it out at the atomic layer. That means being able to modify it afterwards in a Photoshop document, a Photoshop file. And that was powerful. So that saves $1 billion, or let's say subset of that, significant amount of dollars for that CPG. This company can charge tens of millions of dollars for that contract with that CPG. That's changing the whole world of the way you create content.
You opened up an interesting topic, and we could dive down this rabbit hole. I hope we don't, because it'll go forever. But I was thinking, there will come a time, I think, shortly, where I'll be writing my own agent, and that agent will get employed by another agent to do the work that agent needs done.
Yeah, and we can send actually our AI-driven twins, digital twins, to these conferences to speak.
Yeah, and I can have them answer all my sales calls for me, and I don't have to listen to those.
You should have invited Reid Hoffman.
Yeah.
Definitely. He doesn't even say he's AI.
But real quick, Hooman, while we're on that topic, we talked about this on our prep call. The market is so big, and in your area, in customer service, that particular area alone is so huge. There is no winner-takes-all mentality. We're not going to find one monolithic company that's going to own it all. It's going to be thousands of companies that own parts and pieces and niches of it all, right? I mean, so this idea that we're looking for the big unicorn that's going to own the whole universe, that's just not an existent concept.
But although the large players turn, like let's say image search, chatbots, the large players are turning them to commodity now. So it's really hard to differentiate something that is really easy for them to solve. Face recognition, I invested in face recognition before, but now it's a commodity, So we probably should look into more infrastructure.
The founder of the company that does face recognition just groaned. I think I heard a groan. I'm just joking. We talked about one of my favorite topics, and I just met a company here. They were Engine.com. They're the Concur killer, the travel agency killer, and anything that would kill Concur would have my favor because I hate Concur. Sorry, anybody that works at SAP. But yeah, we talked about actually the real monolithic killers out there, ERP replacements with AI. I mean, talk to us about what you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think, in the whole, different data stack, enterprise applications, there'll be all, types of, ways to rethink the UX of those applications, such as ERP that, we talked about. Everyone hates using ERPs. It's a terrible user experience. No one, you go to this user interface, you try to figure out what to do in that, ERP's user interface. So there's a lot of opportunities in, rethinking that, layer of system of records basically in the company, what sort of like UX that you can build around like ERP to, you know, enable all types of like different industries that are using ERP. So that's like a really exciting area, I think, in terms of, you know, rethinking with the AI agents, agentic AI, to improve the workflows of, you know, how the data comes in, how the data goes out, how do you ask questions to that data set that you can get answers to, how can you actually integrate your email system to just, you know, write the, you know, the right data into the ERP. You might be getting invoice. Why do you have to go to the user interface and input all those sorts of things? So it's a really exciting area, I think. Yeah.
So Quinn, I think Qualcomm's probably leading the forefront on this agentic AI concept. I don't think it's a all or nothing. It's not edge or not edge. I think it's a combination of them together. Would you agree? It's both.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's still early days of agentic AI, right? So I think we believe in things need to solve a real problem, whatever solution you come up with it. But the agentic AI world, I think the user interface might change, right? Today, you're like, just even this morning coming here, I got to go find Google Maps and type it in the address and say, okay, go and put in the CarPlay, and then, you know, goes there, right? Why can't some agent just help me out, right? Look at my calendar, maybe just say, okay, I need to go to SDSU, I need to go park here, and then tell the car, just go take me there. And maybe the car is autonomous driving, and then I don't have to deal with it, right? So
Sounds like Tesla.
what's that?
Sounds like Tesla.
Yeah, exactly.
Co-pilot.
So I think some of these use cases still in development, but you can see a world where these agents get much, much smarter, and it becomes kind of my personal assistant in some ways, and just be able to solve some of these tasks where I have to manually input a lot of these things to happen, right? And in these scenarios, now the model training might still be done in the cloud, but I think a lot of the inferencing will be done local on the device. Not going to be always pushing everything to the cloud. Maybe done on my phone, maybe done in my car, maybe done on my laptop. But I think a lot of these inferencing of agents will be done in the edge or local devices.
So we're going to start seeing more and more companies that are combining the two into an ecosystem to solve one of those complex problems.
Federated solutions. I
that what
think
you call it?
that's
Okay.
what we're seeing, hopefully in near future, because like 10, 20 years ago, Apple, Facebook, Microsoft, these guys were working on silo solutions, silo problems, silo databases, but now they have to work together because the new modern users, consumers, clients, they can't log into 400 applications and remember 400 credentials to do one freaking job, you know, of finding your way to the campus, right? So they have to start working with each other and allow these other solutions to create that federated solutions that the consumers need.
So yet we were talking earlier. It appears to me that every time I get into an AI conversation with a customer, that it ultimately becomes a data conversation. That most people are worried that their data is not complete or not in a state of readiness. There was a time when we were trying to consolidate data as the solution, but I'm not so sure that's the case. That's the path we're heading down. It's more, I think, what Susan said, federated. What are your thoughts on the data problem?
Yeah, I think the enterprises don't want to send their data to the cloud of OpenAI and others because they see that as like a asset, which is their asset basically. So I think there's a lot of developments that like Quinn also talked about, which is like the multi-model like on device as well as on premise. There's a lot of open source models. I think people hate usage-based pricing, so they want to actually cap like the cost of like the models as well as they put it in their own premise, as well as like they want to use like different model sizes, different parameters for the models as well. That GPT 3.5 could be okay for certain tasks. Why do you need to pay for the O3 or O1? So there's a lot of like different layers of like models that you basically put in your on premise or in a private cloud environment that you can cap those like costs, and you can actually keep your data safe in that sense, and those data sets actually become like, what is called like knowledge graphs or knowledge facts or whatever that you would want to basically name them. So that enables you to basically, just own your data, use any model that you want, and that gives the enterprises the independence of, proprietary competitive advantage on their data set. So they really need to own it. I think the models need to be like price capped in the sense that like it shouldn't be like going crazy in terms of like costs. So people really care about those, cases like with their, both model and the data uses basically.
So we have about 10 minutes left. So Hooman, I'll start with you. One thought I've been having lately is that we need to be more open to failure, both from a trying things out in our company perspective, but also trying investments out. So it feels to me like instead of having one or two, we should have hundreds. Like, do you follow what I'm saying? Like failure is going to be more frequent because the cost of failure is much lower with AI. It used to be the cost of failure was huge because you had all this human power behind it. But now the cost of failure is lower. So shouldn't we be increasing the amount that we're churning through? I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I mean, it's all about iteration, experimentation, and improvement. So you said you either win or you learn, right? So and when you learn, you're still winning because you figure out how to improve on it. In venture capital, we're failing every day. 40% of our companies return a subset of our dollars back, or maybe a 1x on that investment. 15% ended up returning a multiple on that investment, but it's not going to return the fund. Until we return the fund, we're not going to be able to get back to our LPs and ask for more dollars. So usually there are 2 to 3 companies in every fund that return the fund multiple times over. And when you have 2 or 3, you end up being 3x, 4x on that fund. When you have 1, you might be able to get a 2x on that fund. And that's how we look at returns. But it's really plow into the winners and double down on the winners because you learn about the way that those ones are operating in the market. Same thing with founders. I think founders, you might have raised some dollars and you might have figured out that, hey, the first solution is not working. Pivot, do a quick pivot and figure out either adjacency or a complete different industry. We're investors in a company that was providing a sort of a virtual office environment on your computer. He raised a lot of money, like tens of millions of dollars, and still sitting in the bank, and he was trying to figure out how to make that work. The world changed. The world went from being remote to being more hybrid, and he couldn't figure out that shift of remote and hybrid together as a productized solution. So he actually shifted completely over to a virtual assistant solution, and now it's taken off a company called Lindy now. So you got to figure out, well, what is the problem to be solved? What's the jobs to be done, as Clayton Christensen always said. And if you're doing that jobs to be done, you're going to be able to actually find that product market fit more quickly.
Well, isn't that what's been happening? Pivot has been the name of the game. I mean, Slack was a total pivot.
It was an internal solution.
Yeah, exactly. That was a total pivot, right?
Right.
So I think of all the companies that have had that complete left shift as they've been developing their product. Yeah. Susan, we talked about software development as a hobby. Susan's a closet software developer.
Yeah, these are my pet projects. People are playing piano. I design software for fun for myself. And
so I've been thinking that with AI is going to get better and better at doing UX and other code. Mm-hmm. So humans' job is going to become to increase the backlog, not decrease it. Yes. My whole life, I've been raised to believe I have to decrease backlog.
No.
But reality is I have to actually now increase backlog.
No, I told you. I mean, you have to lose your focus. Focus in the modern era is your dusted typewriter on the attic. Forget about it, right? I mean, you need to expand your horizons and learn and try things. But before that, I think I answered that question quickly. You said something about data, and I want to play devil's advocate because I'm really good at it. Why we think when we ask consumers, we've asked consumers for the last 2 decades to share the most private data, their emotions, everything that they do based on in advertising industry, the industry that I'm not proud of coming out of. And now when we're thinking about data, the company's data, we just keep it on our chest. Does the data really belong to the companies anymore? is it still a currency that we really need to think we own? I mean, I don't think so. We have to think about, as we ask for consumers to become our product for 20 years, target them, shadow them, just like push the same freaking, push advertising to them. Should we just at least, eat our own dog food and ask the companies also to share data with each other to make the life of consumers easier? This is a question. I don't have an answer. I'm
It's a
just posing
perplexing
it to
question.
the panel.
I'm sure one of the attorneys at Noby Martins is freaking out about it. But you're
That's-
right. I think you're right. It's an open question. I mean,
Yeah. Let's think about it.
It's the biggest resistance that we see in the enterprise market to adopting AI.
But my TV, my phone, everything is shadowing me. Every time that I talk about my sister-in-law, her picture is coming up on my phone. So why the companies should be entitled to save my data for themselves to make new revenue models or keep their business models intact, right?
well, there's nothing private anymore. In fact,
No,
the second I
nothing.
try to hide myself, I become the anomaly, and then they notice me.
yeah.
It's like the only way to be truly secret is to give everything away. Then you're actually secret now.
Right. Let's push the companies to also share this data because that makes the consumers and users' life and human beings' life easier.
So we have 5 minutes left. So we'll end with you and Quinn. Talk to us about what you're looking for out there as an investor. What's exciting to you? Where do you see this environment going? Talk to us.
Yeah, at a fundamental level, we are looking for great founders, and that's what our models are based on. Because great founders, tough founders, know what to build more than what we know. So like it's basically finding the top talent and hearing what they think about, and hearing their expertise and following them. So that's kind of like how I think. That's how the models work on our side as well. But in terms of like personal opinion, I have like some thoughts about it. What I would do as of today, like if I was starting another new company, I think there are like 3 different layers of areas that I'm personally excited about. One is like faster, better, cheaper. AI doctor, AI educator. Expanding the market size so that people can have access to these services. I think it's really exciting. So the second aspect is UX. I think we talked about that. Like I think how we use email, calendar, like all these sorts of stuff is gonna change. Like it's extremely obvious, how we interact with this software. And the third piece is the creativity, which you talked about. Like exactly, like computers basically have the creative power that like humans have now. So it actually augments us to be like 100x, 10x like productive. Then there's a trust and safety layer. As people generate this content, people call us, like AI calls us, like how can I trust? Trust and safety is becoming more and more important, I think, in the infrastructure layer. Then it becomes like how do you make these things cheaper, faster, multimodal, edge? Like those are the things that like I'm personally really excited about. But at the end of the day, it's the models, it's the people, it's the great talent that comes up with stuff, and we just follow that.
If there's one thing I've noticed, normally if you were to ask me, hey, you're a founder, go ask Menlo or Qualcomm for money, I'd be scared to death. But in reality, I've noticed that in the investment community, everybody is very personable, very willing to help, very willing to give advice, very open, and I think you see that with this panel today. I mean, I think we're all willing to help. We're all looking for the next great idea, right? The next great thing. So I wouldn't be afraid to reach out. So speaking of which, Quinn, talk to us about what you're interested in at Qualcomm.
I don't think I'm that scary, huh?
Yeah, well, I don't know, maybe. So talk to us, if somebody wanted to approach Qualcomm Ventures, how would that go?
So just to add maybe to what you said, right? So we're first looking for great businesses. So great founders, product market fit. Are you solving a real problem, what Susan mentioned? So great business, solving a large market, solving a real problem. So that's number one. Second, we're trying to find a fit with Qualcomm. So is there any way we can partner with the company, whether it's from a technology standpoint, customer standpoint, partner standpoint, go-to-market standpoint? That's the additional criteria we're looking for. Ideally, we can find both. Sometimes we don't find the second one, then it's not the right fit for Qualcomm. Doesn't mean you're not a great company, it's just not the right fit for us, right? We were recently talking to a company, and they're talking about use case of, I think the area we're trying to still find is, AI is certainly a hot area, we'll continue to look, but also the market is pretty heated right now. So investors, ideally what you want to do is you want to invest low and sell high, right? But not investing high, sell low. That doesn't work. So we're trying to find these companies that leveraging AI to solve a real specific problem, ideally leveraging Qualcomm's technology, right? One use case of a company we recently talked to is solving a real problem for, like in nursing home, in elderly care, there's a big problem of people falling, right? So how do you know, like, you need to have solutions. So basically, they have a camera solution that's deployed in these nursing home facilities, and they'll be able to detect when the patient or elderly is fell to the floor, and automatically alert to a nursing staff or whatever, right? And then also be able to capture that event so that you know if it's a serious accident or something minor. Does it require calling 911 or call the ambulance? They have to send to the hospital. So it's a very, very practical use case of leveraging AI and a lot of the processing all happening in the local devices, and to solve a real problem of potentially saving costs for the nursing care facility, but also saving lives, right? So that's like a perfect use case of leveraging technology, edge processing, and solve a real problem.
It really is all about use cases. I mean, this is an exciting time to be alive, right? I mean, seriously, this is great. I think we're done. Is there anything anybody's dying to say before we quit? All right, well, I think we're good. Thank you for participating. Appreciate it very much.